Hi, my name is Mario, and in this video I'd like to share my observations about the wrist vibrato on the violin from a student's perspective. In this video, the mention to vibrato will be relative to wrist vibrato, and the mention to the hand will refer to the left hand, unless stated otherwise. Now, I need to make some disclaimers. Firstly, this is based on my personal experience, and I am not an authority on the subject. Therefore, I will not be prescribing that violin playing should be performed in the ways here depicted, and it is not guaranteed that the same approach will work in the same way for you if you follow it. In this respect, I keep the same mindset I expressed in my 3-video series about the violin for adult beginners. More specifically, the approach I promote here is intended to facilitate the development of the technique. It's not meant to be a rule for playing the violin in general. Also, I am still new to this technique, and although I usually only make these videos late in time, in this case I decided not to wait lest I forget something or lose interest. Secondly, vibrato is an ornament. And as a rule, ornaments should be developed after you develop the natural sound on the violin. If you follow this guideline, you'll make sure to first be familiar with playing the violin in several positions and with several bowing styles. Otherwise, you will add all that complexity to a technique that I believe is already challenging enough to develop. Also, since an ornament is a deviation from a natural sound, that will provide you a baseline, a reference against which you can evaluate your technique and improve it. Thirdly, I found that there are some aspects to vibrato that are not entirely consensual and definitive among professionals, and to keep focus on the essentials, I will not be dealing with those here. Examples of these are whether the vibrato should increase and also decrease the pitch of the note, on an equal measure of course, and what should be the appropriate rate of vibration. If you, like me, are starting vibrato somewhat late in your violin journey, you may need to more or less radically change your approach with the left hand, and this may be best addressed before getting too demanding with yourself in the vibrato. In my case, I had to loosen my left hand much more than I was used to, and to increase the space between the left hand and the neck of the violin. Now, as I see it, there are a number of different factors at play when doing the vibrato, and I will address them one by one, separately. In the end, I'll put it all together when addressing the practice. The factors are the angle our hand does relative to the neck, the finger pressure, the thumb support, and the wrist vibration. As for the angle our hand does relative to the neck, the finger you are playing with impacts almost all of the other factors, and this is one of them. When going from the first to the fourth finger, the movement of your wrist starts with a door knocking motion, and gradually drifts to different motion which is more similar to a waving goodbye kind of motion. You can't possibly move the fourth finger in the same door knocking way as you do with the first finger, and you will be transitioning between these movements as you change the finger playing the string. In other words, the palm of your hand will start from the first to the fourth finger with a roughly 90 degree relative to the neck and decrease into almost parallel to the neck. This will in turn impact on another factor, which is the support you give to that finger with your thumb, but I will address that later on. For now, I suggest you practice this by playing on different positions with each finger on the same string, sequentially from the first to the fourth finger, while adjusting the angle of the palm of your hand accordingly. The idea is to set you up for the vibrato as soon as you place the finger on the string. Due to reasons I will explain the next factor, I suggest you support the fourth finger with the third finger when placing it on the string. As for the finger pressure, vibrato means that you will be moving your hand and the tip of your finger doing the note's time value, and this means that you will have to keep pressure on the string as if you were not doing any vibrato at all. This is possible in one of two ways. Either you keep your entire finger stiff and thus shake the whole violin as you wave your hands, or you'll need to keep the distal finger joints flexible, and that means the main contributor to your finger pressure will be the proximal joint, the one at the knuckle. You want to reduce the violin shaking so you can use the bow in the usual way, so you'll need to use different parts of your finger differently. To practice this, I suggest the following exercise with each finger. Grab the tip of one of your left hand fingers with the other hand. Push the left finger towards the back of the same hand. Move the left finger up and down while keeping the left finger relaxed. Now do the same, but with the proximal joint, the knuckle, half flexed, or the fingertip half forward, and while applying pressure with the right hand. For this, you need to counter the pressure with the left finger, but because the tip is being pulled up and down, you can only use the knuckle joint. Practicing this will get you used to being flexible with the fingertip while still exerting pressure on the string when playing. This will be harder to do with the fourth finger, because it is the weakest one, and this is why I have recommended that the previous exercise be executed with the third finger supporting the fourth on the string, while the fourth finger develops its strength. This is especially useful when you practice vibrato in higher positions because the strings will have higher tension there. Now let's look at the role of the thumb. As mentioned before, when discussing the angle of your hand relative to the neck, we need support from the thumb to counter the downward pressure exerted with the finger playing the string. This support will also be useful to dampen the hand vibrations so they don't spread to the whole violin. Well, because we do not move the left hand when changing the finger on the string on the same position, and because the support should be as close to the finger being used as possible from the other side of the neck, we need to slightly change the part of the hand we press the neck with to keep it as close as possible to that finger. This means that support with the thumb changes from the base of the thumb, the proximal phalanx, when the first finger is on the string, to the abductor muscle when the fourth finger is on the string, closer to the palm of the hand, because we want to follow the fingers being used and we are not shifting position. The more solid the support, the easier will it be to do the vibrato while keeping the pressure on the string. To experience this, try to press the string with the fourth finger on both situations, that is, with the counter pressure close to the left thumb and also supporting with the abductor muscle in the second time. It should be more natural the second way. And when you move the wrist while doing the vibrato, this difference has much more impact in playing. However, please note that this does not mean that we should always play in this way. It means that this is a way to easily develop the vibrato in the beginning. At some point, we won't be even thinking about this while doing it, in which case our body will be positioning itself in the most natural way for us. Now, let's look at the options for when to start a vibrato and how to do it. As for the start, especially in developing the technique, it makes sense to first secure the note and only after that do the vibrato. This is the way to start practicing so we make sure we are playing the bass tone correctly, and that sets the baseline for the rest. Also, in my opinion, when playing music, the vibrato sounds best as it emerges from the bass tone, instead of making up the whole time value of the note. But this is my position. Regarding the way in which we start the vibrato, there are two considerations I think are important. First, it's the interesting fact that it is easier to learn the vibrato by playing more rapidly than otherwise, unlike pretty much all of the other techniques. This makes sense if we consider that we are developing flexibility of the wrist and the distal finger joints, and this is the more important the slower we play the vibrato. So this also serves to point that the aim is to develop our own rhythm of the vibrato, which is expected to be different than the more rapid one we start with. And of course, different frequencies of vibration will fit best for each type of music and to which we can portray by playing. The second thing here is that if you experiment starting the vibrato in different rates of increase in the vibration, you will notice that the results are different in terms of making it a smoother or not surge in the tone oscillations. In the extreme case, when you start moving your wrist at maximum speed right away, the whole violin will shake and it will be almost impossible to play properly. So it is clear that the rate of vibration should increase as soon as you start doing the vibrato on a given note. The question now is at which rate should it be better increased? I found that the smoothest approach for me was when the vibration rate increases in a non-linear way. And this is actually explainable if we consider the vibrations as waves. If the cadence is not regular, the waves will partially cancel each other, meaning that the violin will shake less as you move your hands. Otherwise, because you are increasing the amplitude of your hands movements, you will build on top of the previous in the same way and thus add the vibrational waves and amplify them. So the rate should increase in a superlinear rate, and this rate should be very high so as to allow you to reach full vibrato smoothly without listening to different vibratos on the same note. Try this with the same finger on the same note and different rates of vibration, and probably you'll arrive at the same conclusion. All it's left to do is to find the optimal rate for you and your body. After experimenting and practicing each of the previous factors separately, you will be ready to practice them together in the same notes. Start with picking a string and a position, and play 4 notes, one with each finger, without any ornament, while adjusting the angle of your hand relative to the neck so you get used to that motion. Repeat the previous exercise again, but this time with vibrato on the last third of the bow. Start with the natural sound to secure the note properly and set the bass line for about the first third of the bow. Then, ease the pressure on the distal joints of the finger while keeping and actually increasing it at the knuckle joint. At the same time, start the vibration motion in a decided, assertive way and in a rapid increase rate. It starts at a very small amplitude and quickly expands at an irregular cadence to full vibrato. Do this during the second third of the bow. The last third of the bow should be covered with vibrato at a constant cadence. When you can do this with little effort, do variations on the same string, for example with different fingering sequences, and afterwards do it with string crossings. At last, practice this with a piece of actual music and, if possible, compare it with your original. Experiment with different vibrato speeds. In the end, you should be able to do vibrato at several speeds. And that is all I found relevant to share about the wrist vibrato. I hope that this can be useful to you, or at least that it helps you identify the best way for you to develop the technique.